Second. Oh, there we go. There's some people joining in. Roundtable, yo, how's it going? And Ajit, hello. Reality check Islamophobia, Ram Ram. Ram Ram to you as well. I hope everybody's doing okay. Salaam alaikum. Donald Trump. Ami Chotu. Kaise ho? I'm good. How are you? I hope you're good as well. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come and join me for this live hangout as well. I want to talk about Akshit Thaplial ji, namaste. Ram Mohan Karingula, hi, how are you? Ajit. So I want to talk about a couple of things, and I want to take your questions, obviously, as many questions as I can today. Babu Gosha, hi Sham ji, hello Babu Gosha, how are you? I also, I don't know how many people of you are on Twitter, but I was on Twitter yesterday and there was this campaign on Twitter called #TalkToAMuslim. It was this big hashtag that people are saying, oh, well, you will only understand Muslims' problems if you go and talk to Muslims, and so on and so forth. Prasanna Kumar Nath, hello, how are you? So people were like, oh, this is such an important hashtag, this is such a vital hashtag, and so on and so forth. And dude, lots of people talk to Muslims, okay? I talk to Muslims quite frequently as well. It's not like people who have problems with Islamic theology, people who have problems with Islamic extremism. It's not like they've never talked to a Muslim before. So it's just such a strange, bloody, I don't know, it's such a strange, bloody hashtag. It's such a virtue signaling hashtag. Tomorrow, you'll most likely see a hashtag which is like, talk to a woman, hashtag talk to a Dalit, hashtag talk to a this. And, I understand talking is important, but all the people that have been posting these hashtags, that have been using these hashtags to say stuff, they're not really saying anything of consequence. They're just saying, oh, well, talk to a Muslim and you'll find out how nice Muslims are. And I've never contested that. I don't think anybody contests the fact that Muslims can be nice people, because Muslims are people. It's the ideology that people have often said, well, it's a very exclusivist ideology that people have a problem with. So yeah, it's such a stupid virtue signaling bloody hashtag. Dr. Sachin, hello. And Rishikesh Jagtap, hello to you as well. Sumant Kumar Sarkar, oh, thank you for joining, everybody. I appreciate it. So if you guys have any questions, again, please make sure to put those questions to me in the top chat, in the live chat over there, and I'll try to take as many as I can. Roundtable, talk to a Muslim is one of the most disgusting thing after the Katua placard campaign. I don't know if it's like as disgusting as the Katua campaign, because the Katua campaign was disgusting because it was literally exploiting the death of a young lady for their own political purposes and for their own, cultural purposes. But talk to a Muslim is just one of those virtue signaling campaigns. It's just a dumb, silly, dishonest, stupid campaign. That's what it is. And very few people are taking it seriously. Only the people on the sort of liberal circles and the leftist circles, only they are taking this hashtag seriously. Any normal person will not take this hashtag seriously because it's a silly, stupid hashtag. Tejasvi Gururaj, namaste. Namaste, Sharma ji. Namaste to you as well. Hello, welcome. Super Freak Athletes, yo. Exactly, Vishal Maharaj, that you're saying that the hashtag doesn't have Muslim friends. Like, who doesn't have Muslim friends? But it's the Islamic ideology that is the problem. I think that's the point that everybody was making against this hashtag as well, is that the talking to people and treating people like people is not a problem. It's just that some people just don't, is the ideology that is the problem. Akshat Thaplial, question, have you studied about communism? What's your take on it? I've studied a little bit. I'm not the most learned person when it comes to communism, but I've looked at communism from the application viewpoint. It's one of those things where it sounds fantastic in theory, but it doesn't take into account people, but it doesn't take into account human beings. Human beings like incentives. Human beings like to be better. At least there are a pretty big section of human beings that like to be better than other people, that like to go over and above and expect to be compensated in that manner, in that over and above manner. The problem with communism tends to be that everybody needs to be exactly the same. It's not about social treatment. I feel like, yeah, everybody should be socially treated exactly the same. But in terms of economic treatment, if you treat everybody exactly the same, then you just destroy all incentives. Then another problem is that you give the state too much control over your affairs, and the state tells you what to do, what to believe in, what to eat, how to dress, how to spend your money, what to do with your money, how much money you get. All of those things the state controls. And so that again becomes a massive problem, because you're giving your independence and you're giving your rights over to the state. Essentially, that's what happens in a communist society. And because the communist ideology doesn't take into account how people behave, how people act, what people's aspirations are, that is why it doesn't tend to work wherever it's applied. And that's basically my problem with it. All right, let's take some more. Hi, Sham, how are you doing? Manhunt 800, I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good as well. Srinivasan, we'll talk to any Muslim who says mandir wahi banega. I agree, man. I think like it's such a strange thing to get hung up on one place that is not even. It's not like it's Mecca. It's not like it's Medina. It's not like it's Al-Aqsa Mosque in freaking Jerusalem. It's Ayodhya, which has no real cultural, religious significance to Muslims at all. But it has all the bloody religious and cultural significance to Hindus. So it would be such a gesture of goodwill by the Muslim community if they're just like, you know what, this is such a this is such a dear site to you Hindus culturally. So why don't you take it? Why don't you have this site? It is a gesture of goodwill from us, and it will create so much goodwill among different communities that it's a no-brainer. I think it'll be a great step if the Muslim community agrees to doing that. Namaskar, Sham. Ameya Joshi, namaskar. Rajiv Ranjan Keshav, namaste, Shamji. Namaste to you as well, Ranjan. Aniruddha Mondal, first time, Sharmaji. Oh, first time. Well, then welcome. Welcome to your very first episode. We're very happy to have you as part of this community. Know your crypto, KYC, hashtag talk to Kashmiri Pundits. Agreed very much. Somebody bloody talk to Kashmiri Pundits. And if you guys get the chance, man, go watch my video that I did with Ashish Dhar. Talking to him, I realized that there are so many issues that Kashmiri Pundits face that we should really be standing up for, and that we should really be campaigning for as Hindus. Because almost all Hindu communities in India have a place where they can maintain their cultures, they can maintain their traditions. But Kashmiris don't have that. Kashmiris are so spread out across all parts of India that they have no real community where they can help maintain their cultures and their traditions. So we should really help provide them with such an area. We've been able to settle Tibetans, like Ashish was saying, that we've been able to settle Tibetans and provide them with areas. We should be able to provide the Kashmiris with areas, with Kashmiri Hindus with areas where they can preserve the traditions as well. And I really hope that we can create a campaign around it. I will talk to Ashish if we can create some sort of a change.org petition around that as well. I think that's a good idea. I think I'll reach out to him about that. Talk to humans, I agree. Listen to Rajiv Malhotra on Ayodhya. He makes it so clear. Yeah, definitely. Go watch. Rajiv Malhotra has a very interesting Swadeshi Muslims campaign that he's recently come out with as well, which I think is very interesting. I've only watched like half of the video that he had. I'm going to watch the rest of the video today, most likely. and I'm going to make a video on my thoughts about the whole Swadeshi movement, Swadeshi Muslims program, and what I think of it, how successful I think it can be. So I'm going to look at that as well, and I'm going to make a video which will come out most likely Friday. So make sure you keep an eye out for that as well. Anish Sharda, thought on the Maulana slap incident. Well, that's the problem, with it's not very surprising with especially with the Saudi funded madrasa, Saudi funded Maulanas that are in the country. I have no problem with religious leaders. Hindus have religious leaders, Christians have religious leaders, Muslims also have religious leaders, and that's fine. But the problem is a large amount of this Saudi money, a large amount of this foreign money, excuse me, that is coming into India and that is going into these religious schools and these religious institutions and are training these bloody Maulanas that are saying all these things. I mean, you watch these YouTube videos of so many Maulanas that are teaching you how you should beat your wife. And they think that it's a normal thing. So many people think that, oh, beating your wife is a normal thing. So they actually have guidelines about how you should be doing it. So it's not surprising at all that Maulana actually went and slapped a woman, because they believe that that is their right. And that, I just find that such a crazy thing that that is believed and that is accepted by people. And I think we need to ridicule it as much as we can. I think memify it, make as many memes on that incident as possible. And I think the Muslims themselves need to ridicule it and be like, that stuff is just not accepted or allowed or should be allowed in a democratic culture like India. To follow a book which is thousands years old because the world is changing. I agree, Chetan. Chetan made a very good point. Chetan saying, it doesn't make really sense to follow a book which is 1,000 years old. And I agree with that point as well, because, the world changes. Science textbooks and mathematics textbooks are bloody updated every year. And why can't we update religious books? I agree with that for Hinduism. I agree with that for Christianity and Islam. I also feel like there are, lessons and stories that have importance in all of these books. I'm sure there are. And so maintaining those theories or saving those stories is a good thing. Maintaining or taking lessons from those stories is a good thing. But at the same time, some of the things that don't make sense in today's world should really be updated and changed. I completely agree with that assessment. I know it's very interesting that Know Your Cryptocurrency is saying that Maulana incident happened on live TV and no liberal talk about it, no movement. Imagine something like that done by a Pandit. Exactly. If something like that happened to if a Pandit did that, or if a Hindu religious leader did that, went on live TV, slapped a lady, called her names, that would be on the front pages of every national newspaper, every single national newspaper, that this is Hindu fundamentalism, this is Hindu terrorism, these are the leaders of Hinduism, and shame on Hinduism, and so on and so forth. So there's always been that bloody discrimination against Hindus. There's always been that bias against Hindus. Whereas if Hindus do something wrong, then it's magnified to such an extent. But when a Muslim does something wrong, some circles will talk about it, but mostly there's going to be an attempt to brush it under the rug and say like, oh, that's just one person. How dare you connect the entire community to it? So yeah, I mean that always exists, and that's what we're trying to do here. Through this channel, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to fight those discrimination ourselves. Kushal Mehra just admit once and for all that I'm the greatest. You are, man. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't really enjoy the chats that you have with people. I actually have learned a lot of tips on how to interview people, how to conduct the chats that I conduct on the sessions. with people from your podcast, because you have such a lucid, easygoing style that I really enjoy, and that I try to at least incorporate in my interactions with these people as well. So, I mean, there's definitely influence that I've taken from you when I interview people as well. So I have to give you credit where it's due. Andrew Johnson, actually, I think that would be the only problem: law and order not being implemented only when it serves personal agenda throughout the history of independent India. I think what could be the problem of law and order not being implemented? Could you, Andrew Johnson, could you rephrase that, man? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble understanding that question. I think what could be the problem of law and order not being implemented only when it serves personal agenda throughout the history of independent India? Yeah, I'm not sure I understand that question. Could you rephrase that, man? I'll promise I'll take it. Could you just rephrase that for me? Do you think that one can criticize a religion without using hate speech? Also, this is something that actually, I was mentioning Kushal Mehra, and this is something that he mentions that I agree with, and that I sort of maintain as well on my end, that we should be able to criticize any religion. We should be able to criticize any ideology without people going to the courts and without the court telling us how we should use our speech. As long as we're not calling for Muslims to be killed, as long as Muslims are not calling for Hindus to be killed, as long as Christians are not calling for Muslims to be killed, and so on and so forth, I think we should be able to use our words to criticize people, ridicule people even, and we should not see that as illegal. Words should not be illegal, even if they're dumb words, even if they're stupid words. They should not be illegal. That's how a democratic society should be. That's how a free society should be. Even if somebody is saying something that you do not like, as long as they're not encouraging violence, as long as they're not encouraging, um, you know, hurting people physically, I think it should be allowed. That's how free speech works in America, and I think that's how free speech should. That's, if there's one lesson that we can really take from America or the West, even, well, can't say the West, but America, for example, I think it should be free speech, and the way free speech is implemented, I think we should implement that in India for sure. Um, what is your Sumant Kumar Sarkar? What is your view on Akash Banerjee? He has large followers on YouTube. Well, Akash has large followers on YouTube for a couple of reasons. He already was a bit of a personality. He was a known entity with Times of India before he came on YouTube. So when he came on YouTube, he obviously brought a ready-made audience with him as well, rather than somebody who's starting organically. Literally nobody knows who he or she is. Um, so they're obviously going to have a slower growth in terms of how they grow on YouTube, rather than somebody like Akash Banerjee. So number one is that he brought with himself a ready-made audience. Secondly, I think that people who have a trolling kind of nature in their video, people who are always trolling or baiting other people in their videos, tend to have more success. And I do that as well. I troll every now and then, and I will make replies to people every now and then. But I don't want to do that all the time. There are some people like Akash Banerjee, I feel like, who has that element in his videos all the time. And I don't really believe that that moves the conversation forward. And, I'm guilty of doing that as well, 100%. I'm definitely guilty of doing that, especially when it comes to bloody Vinod Dua, because Vinod Dua is such a dishonest guy that it's unbelievable. So with Vinod Dua, I tend to do that every now and then. But generally speaking, I try to avoid trolling too much, because the goal is not to troll. Oh, that rhymed. That rhymed. The goal is not to troll. The goal is to move a conversation forward. The goal is to create a narrative, create a better narrative. And narrative, some changes, the defensive stuff of the narrative we can do through trolling, but the offensive stuff, moving the narrative forward, creating the actual narrative, that will not come with trolling. That will come with sane, you know, constructive conversations, constructive videos, constructive things. And I don't think Akash does as much of that as he insinuates that he does, and I don't think he's as balanced as he tries to make people believe that he is. He says that, oh, I'm presenting things from both sides of the aisle. I don't think that's necessarily true. Like, you look at the way when he is impersonating that Bhakt character, look at the way he talks and look at the way he represented, as opposed to when he's representing sort of a liberal character. So that it becomes very clear right there as well. Akash Banerjee was put in his place by Being Humor on Twitter. I mean, he's still growing his YouTube followers, so I don't know how much he was put in his place, really, Kiran Kumar Reddy. He's still growing his Twitter followers. He's still growing his, YouTube followers. So I'm not sure how much of that worked, but, I'm always up for a little bit of trolling. I'm always down for that. By the way, Iman Tawhidi, Sham, please try to get him on your channel. I will, man. That's actually a good idea. I'm going to write that down in my pad right now. That I'm going to start reaching out to Iman Tawhidi. I'd thought about reaching out to him earlier, and then I just bloody forgot. I'm gonna write it down right here. Tawhidi. Good idea, man. And I'm gonna reach out to Imam Tawhidi, and I'm also hoping to reach out to Tariq Fateh, if I can hopefully get him on my show just for a little chat. I think that'll be great, and I'd love to pick his brain a little bit as well, because I think he has some very interesting views, and so does Imam Tawhidi. I think he's very interesting. He went on the show of one of the guys that I actually spoke to. I spoke to Hashim al-Madni, who's a secular ex-Muslim, and he went on his show and spoke to him. So I'd love to have him on my show as well, and I think that'll be fun. How about this? You and I do a joint session with him. I'd be down. I'd be down for that. I don't know if you mean Imam Tawhidi or Tariq Fateh, but I'd be down for either. So I'm definitely looking out. My goal is also to reach out to some sort of, through my show, I want to reach out to some sort of more moderate Muslims, more moderate liberals from the Indian sphere as well. Not like hardcore liberals, because sometimes it's hard to talk to them, but more moderate liberals, more moderate Muslims, more ex-Muslims. I want to get more of those people on the show. I don't want to just get right-wing Hindus on my show, because when I talk about creating an ecosystem, I think that ecosystem needs to be bigger than just the sort of right wing. So Imam Tawhidi, I have a contact to both of them. Let's do it. I'll be down with that. I'll 100% be down with that. Ameya Joshi, Sham Sharma show must go viral, and you deserve at least 100,000 by now. Well, it's a difference between. There's always tends to be a difference between what people deserve and what people get. But again, man, it's a slow and steady process. Like I said, my channel is still relatively very new. So I have a very new YouTube channel, and if it's slow, it's slow. But if it's steady, it's steady. But as long as the message is getting out to people, and look at how many people are in the live chat right now. I mean, that stuff makes me very happy. Excuse me. That stuff makes me very happy. And as long as you guys are coming and listening to me, as long as you guys are watching my videos, I'm happy. And as long as it's making some sort of an impact, I'm happy. And our impact will only grow. Our channel's growing, and the impact will obviously always grow. What else? Sham, ever tried connecting with Dr. Syed Rizvi Ahmed? I think you'll find him interesting. Poonam Abhi, hi, welcome to the live chat. No, I haven't actually tried speaking to him. I don't even, I'm going to be honest, I don't even know about him. But I will look him up, Syed Rizvi Ahmed. I will look him up. And if that's something I feel like will be interesting for the show, I'll be happy to reach out to him as well. I've been born and bred outside India, but goddamn, the unity of Muslims never ceases to awe and amaze. Well, it's true, man, because they have this one ideology that connects them. They have this one book that connects them, and they have this one set of laws and rules that connects them. So there's a lesson there as well. I think there's a big lesson there for Hindus. And Ashish and I, when we were talking on the podcast or on the show last week, that's what we were discussing, that there's lessons to be taken from the Muslims and the way they're able to unite for causes as well, and the way Hindus don't unite for these causes as well. And there's lessons to be taken from sort of the left in India as well, or in that regard, is that you look at somebody like Dhruv Rathi, you look at somebody like The Wire, you look at the Scroll, their videos and their content is shared quite heavily by people on the left. Their videos and their content is shared and promoted quite heavily by prominent intellectuals, prominent politicians on the left. Whereas even if you look at the work that Op India does, it's not shared as widely by the sort of politicians and intellectuals as the work of the left is done. So I think that is another place where the right tends to be sort of lacking a little bit in terms of helping create that ecosystem. If you're an influential person in sort of the Hindu wing, and if you see this content is out there, I think it would be useful if they shared it and if they made it grow big enough to at least rival these people. So I think that's where people can pick up the slack a little bit more. Sham, what is your view on Priyanka Chopra and the Quantico episode? I think I made a video on this, right? I think I did. I think I've already made a video on this. Rohan Verma, I think I've already made a video on this. And my view, I think you can go check out the video. I'm pretty sure I made a video on this. You can go check it out there, but I can tell you a small gist as well. Look, a lot of people were calling for Priyanka Chopra to be fired. Should she be fired? I don't think so. I don't think Priyanka Chopra should be fired from her show, because at the end of the day, she's an actress. That's her bread and butter. She's an actress, and I don't think she's just doing what the show and the showrunners and the show writers are telling her to do. So I don't think she should be fired for that Quantico episode or criticized for that Quantico episode. Excuse me. What she should be criticized for is her own stupid views about Hindus, about Hindu extremism, about Hindu saffron terrorism and all that. She should be criticized for her own stupid views. I don't think she should be criticized for the Quantico episode. Secondly, I think, the backlash that Quantico received was legitimate, because this is a crappy, stupid, uneducated view that is being promoted in the West for a very long time. And these shows tend to fall for it. Now, should we also be asking Quantico to shut down? I don't think so. It's a contentious opinion, but I don't think so. At the end of the day, it's also a moot point, because Quantico was such a stupid, dumb show, such a crappy show, that it was canceled by itself. Even before the bloody episode came out, that show was canceled. So I don't think we need to worry about Quantico anymore. But I think the backlash that it generated in social media was definitely warranted. 100% warranted. All right. What next? Just Deep Things. Hello, Just Deep. How are you? What, according to you, steps should be taken to preserve our Hindu culture and religion? You seem to be a legit man. I don't think I'm legit, but I just talk to the camera. I just sit on my chair and talk to a camera on YouTube. So I don't know how legit that is. But anyway, since you're asking for my opinion, I think one of the first things that we need to do is get our own house in order, especially in terms of unity. I think even though we're finding our voice, even though there's a lot of good work happening on the ground, I think we need to be more united. I think we need to support each other and promote each other a lot more than we are doing right now. I think there's still an element of maybe there's some jealousy. I don't know. Maybe there's some jealousy. Maybe there's some feeling of, well, I don't really want to associate myself with those people right now, because I'm doing my own thing, and my own thing is important to me right now. And so those things are still there between the right wing. So I think what we need to do, as on the dharmic side, so to say, is to first get our house in order, is to first get united better. That's the first thing that we need to do. Secondly, what we need to do is, again, find people, find like-minded people, and create platforms, create organizations, create physical meetings where people can meet up, share their ideas, and share ways in which to sort of maintain our cultures, ways in which to further our narrative, ways in which to create a better narrative. So first and foremost, what we need to do is get united better, get get present a united front. That's what I would say. That's in my own small way. That's what I'm trying to do with the people that I try to get on board and interview for the show, for the podcast, because I want to get all these people on the show, get their opinions out there, and create my show as sort of like a one-stop shop, so to say, for all these different narrative-based or narrative-focused conversations. So yeah, one of the first things that we need to do is present a more of a united front. American right to do cause more damages to India than American left. Please do make a video on that. Dave Brish, yeah, I agree, and I always talk about that. Is because that evangelists are almost as dangerous, if not more, than the leftists when it comes to India. I agree, and I always talk about that, and I'd like to make a video on that at some point as well. I agree. All right. How can we unite? Nilesh Nath. Wait, hang on. Let me take your question in a second, Nilesh. Let me take Devanshu Gupta's question first. Devanshu says, how to keep aligned the Muslims to Hindus. Their religion text keeps them reminded that we are kafirs. I think that's part of the reason why Rajiv Malhotra ji was talking about the Swadeshi Muslim movement, and why I think we need more sort of moderate reformist Muslims, and we need to give them more of a voice, because I think we need, one of the big goals is that we need to accomplish on the right is that we need to communicate to Muslims, and we need some Muslims to acknowledge that they didn't just drop out of the sky after 600 AD. That before they became Muslims, they were Hindus. They had a deep connection to this culture. That is why they still have this deep connection to Hindu culture and India. And before them, they were this culture which they had a lot of respect for, which they had a lot of love for, and get them to rediscover those roots and slowly develop in them a respect and even a love for those roots and those traditions and that culture. So that's one of the things that we need to do, and for that we need some reformist, moderate Muslim voices. So if you know moderate Muslim voices, we need to help get them a better platform. And I'd like to offer some of those people a better platform on my show as well. So that's, I think, one of the great ways to do that. Nilesh Nath says, how can we unite when we have moronic Arya Samajis everywhere making idiotic comments about our deities? Not everybody's going to agree. Not everybody's going to agree with exactly what you think or what we think. So when I talk about uniting, I talk about uniting around certain common principles. We can't always agree on literally everything. That's impossible. That's impossible for a country as diverse, and that's impossible for a country as large as India. But what we can agree on are certain inalienable principles, like we need Hindus to remain a majority in India because this is the only country that we have. So we need Hindus to remain a large majority in India because we have the right to maintain our culture in India. That's number one. Number two is that we need to agree around preserving Indian culture, Indian heritage, Indian literature, those things. Number three, it could be a host of other things. I actually did another video on that as well, and I can't remember the points that I necessarily mentioned around that. But yeah, around certain large issues, we can unite. We can never, I don't think we'll ever be able to unite on every single little point. So, as long as Arya Samajis and um, Dalits and so-called Dalits, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and Hindus in general around India can agree on 4 or 5 basic fundamental points to preserve Hindu culture, I think we will be fine. I think we can survive. But the trouble is that right now we can't even agree on those points. So we need to first get together and agree on those 3 or 4 fundamental points. And I think that's possible. I definitely think that's possible. What do you think about Muslims asking for head counts of Indian army according to their religion? They're asking for counts of number of Muslims in the army. Stupid idea, dumb idea. Leave religion out of army. Army doesn't need. Uh, when you're fighting for India, you're fighting for India. You're not fighting for. You're not fighting as a Hindu. You're not fighting as a Muslim. You're not fighting as a Christian. Whatever. You're just fighting as an Indian. So leave religion out of army. I completely disagree with that request. It's a stupid request. Recently, UNHRC has issued a statement on Kashmir report saying that they are disappointed with the Indian authorities' feedback. Rohan, I actually made a video on this as well. You can check it out on my channel. You can just go back to the videos that I've made and you'll find a video on that as well. And yeah, I think, if the UNHRC can't even provide a nuanced, bloody assessment of the Kashmir situation, then what are we doing in the UNHRC? What are we getting out of the UNHRC necessarily? The US is pulled out. And if we show solidarity with the US and pull out ourselves, then number one, that allows us to, may potentially build a better relationship with the US because we show solidarity with them. And at the other time, we show the UNHRC that this bias reporting will not work anymore. So I don't know. I don't even know. I think we should pull out of the UNHRC, but I'm happy to listen to another facet of this argument as well, that what are the benefits of us staying. I don't really know the benefits of staying outweigh the benefits of leaving. I don't think so. What's next? Whoa, a lot of chats, man. Woo. Okay. Amit Kushwaha. Let's see. Hey Sham, have you ever code 516? Hey Sham, have you ever tried talking with any Jain saint or acharyas? There are huge gaps between Hindus, Jain, and Buddhists as a community. I don't think there's a gap between Hindus and Jains. I have a lot of Jain friends, and I've never really looked into. Uh, I've never really felt that Jains consider themselves a completely separate entity from Hindus, or they have any uh, bad feelings towards Hindus. I've never felt that with my interactions with any Jains. With Buddhists, I've interacted with a couple, but they haven't been Indian Buddhists. So I do understand that there's this movement, this whole Bhim movement, and within that Bhim movement, there are certain Buddhists that love to completely disassociate themselves with the larger Hindu movement and Hindus in general. But that is, again, I think that's more politically motivated than culturally motivated. I think that's a political stunt more than a cultural phenomenon. And I know it permeates into culture a little bit, but when we, I think, go around to solve that political situation, that's when we go around to solve that cultural situation. Because I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. And even in the West, there's a lot of scholars here in the West that try to disassociate or give Hindu concept that Hinduism originated, give those concepts to Buddhism. That's another part of the battle that we're going to be fighting for. Our narrative is going to be to stop the appropriation of Hindu concepts by Buddhism or into Buddhism by Western scholars. So that's another going to be aspect of that. So I think that's a global sort of movement that we need to fight as well. But with Jains, I haven't really seen that at all. But again, I'm probably happy to be wrong. What else? I've over the years to Where was that? No gap between Hindus, Buddhists, or Sikhs. I mean, I agree. Again, the Sikhs is a very good example, man. There's a very good example with the Sikhs because most of the Sikhs in India, you will see that when it comes to cultural stuff, they'll sit in the Jagratas, they'll sing the prayers to Durga Mata, they'll sing prayers to, they'll sing Jai Mata Di, and all of that stuff. And they're very in tune with Hindu culture, the Indian Sikhs. But when it comes to political stuff, they like to create a distance. They say, well, Hindus are different from Sikhs, and Sikhs are different from Hindus. We're a completely different religion. And I think that's more of a political thing than a cultural thing. I think, since the 90s, the Sikhs have done a very good job, and the Hindus, I think, in general, both communities have done a very good job in assimilating back into like sort of the larger dharmic fold. So that's a very good example. Well, I agree. The practice of Jains is largely Abrahamic. Look, here's the thing. I know, again, my experience with Jains have been different. I know a lot of Jains that go to temples. I know a lot of Jains that they might, have that Abrahamic kind of sense, but I've always seen them go to temples. I always see them going to take prasad and talking about Hindu causes and defending Hindu causes. So my experience might be very different from what the reality might be, but that's just my experience to that. Ranjan Paul, hello, Bhaiya, how are you? I'm good, man. I hope you are good as well. Thank you for joining today. Uh, Sajan Variyar, I hope I'm saying your name right. I hope I'm not butchering your name, man. Sham, how do we place the converted Christian or Islam if they want to come back to Hinduism? If they want to come back to Hinduism, they can come right back. We don't need to place them anywhere because, again, I think that we need to move away from that strict hierarchy. If you're talking about caste, which caste do we place them in? I don't know if that's what you're talking about. But again, I don't believe in that strict hierarchy of caste anyway. I think we need to go back to that more Varna system, more fluid system. So I don't think we'll have any trouble placing people back if they wanted to come back anyway. So I don't think there's an easy problem. That's a pretty easy problem to solve. Ajit M. Hey Sham, don't you think that if we debate keeping religion books as the base, then we as intellectual human beings are moving away from our reasoning capabilities? Yes and no. Yes, because if we take religious books as the end all and be all, then yes, most certainly we are moving away from our religious capabilities. And if we treat religious books as the source of all information and the source of all philosophy, then of course, that's a stupid thing to do because religious books have been written by people. And those people did not have the kind of knowledge that we have today and access to information that we have today. So, of course, those people did not. And of course, we can expand our reasoning capabilities and our philosophical capabilities than the people before. But also at the same time, I believe that religious books and I don't like to call Hindu scriptures and Hindu texts as religious books, so to say. You know what I mean? But I do feel like Hindu texts and Hindu philosophy and Hindu scriptures have a lot of very interesting things that we should always keep in mind, and we can always learn and build from to broaden our intellectual capabilities and to broaden our religious capabilities. So I think we can find a happy balance there. What else? Amit Kushwaha, welcome. Thank you for your question. What's your view on Trump? He is making West more conservative, in my view. I agree with that assessment a little bit as well, because I think there are two aspects to it with Trump. I think what's happened with Trump is, number one, that the leftists, firstly, have. So there's a pendulum, right? So a pendulum shifts a little bit to the left, then it shifts back a little bit to the right. Then it shifts a little bit to the left, then it shifts back a little bit to the right. That's how the social pendulum tends to work, at least here in the West. And what happened with Obama, what happened with a lot of these leftists, is they just move the pendulum way too much to the left, way too much. So what happened is that as a backlash, the pendulum is now starting to move a little bit too much to the right. And again, you can't blame that all on the left and all on Obama, but they have to shoulder a large percentage of the blame as well, because then they started this whole movement that everything is offensive, everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything is homophobic. And when you go that far, when you take the social discussion and the social conversation that far to the extreme, there's obviously going to be a backlash against it. And that's what happened in 2016. There was this massive cultural backlash against the super PC leftist extremism, which gave the world Trump. And so I don't necessarily think that Trump is responsible for the conservatism that is happening in the West, but he's definitely added to it. He's definitely added a significant amount to it. But again, I feel like that conservatism on the right now is being celebrated by a lot of people, and I don't think that's right, because rightist conservatism in the West has never led to good things either. So that's my view on it. All right. What do you think about? No. Oops. I don't know where that went. Sham, do you think Trump is fulfilling one mega videos channel? Welcome again, and thank you for your questions. Sham, do you think Trump is fulfilling his words that Hindus have a special place in the White House? No, I don't think so. It doesn't look like it. I don't think he's done anything really to suggest that Hindus have a special place in the White House. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he has a lot of pressure on himself from the evangelists in his cabinet, because he does have a lot of evangelists that give him advice, particularly Mike Pence. So I don't think somebody like Mike Pence would appreciate too much if Trump gave a lot of importance, or Trump gave a lot of significance to Hindus. Somebody like an evangelist like Pence would hate that. So I don't think he has too much pressure from within the White House, I think, to be able to give Hindus the importance that he was talking about before the elections. So yeah, I don't think there's too many evangelists, I think, in his under, or that influence him. Let's put it that way. Okay. What else can we take as questions? In England, the younger generations of Hindus are less caste oriented. However, they do not have a good understanding of Hinduism to counter any argument. Harinam 6, thank you for your comment and welcome. I think in the West in general, and even in India, in the larger cities, in the big metro cities, Indians are less and less caste oriented and less and less caste focused, and I think that's a great thing. So that's already happening. That shift away from that strict caste minded society, that's already happening. And you're also right that I think we need to educate people about Hinduism, Hindu philosophy, and Hindu concepts better. And I think that's not something that we can necessarily rely on the government to do. That's something that we need to do. That's something that parents need to take charge of in teaching their kids. You know, everybody watching this live stream right now, all of us can learn a little bit more about Hinduism and teach the people around us. You know, that's an easy thing to do. Take the onus in your own hands and start talking to people around yourselves. You know, teach your neighbor, teach a friend, teach whoever you can. That way we can organically grow the knowledge of Hinduism. I think that's one of the best ways of doing it. Take the onus on ourselves. Code 516, hey, we Jains are very dharmic in a sense, just like Hindus. I mean, we have a conversation gap, not a cultural gap. Again, I agree. Code Y 516, I completely agree with that point that you're making, that, just like you have a certain brand of Shaivism, just like you have a certain brand of Jainism, they all, I feel like, fall under the dharmic sort of umbrella. Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, they all fall under that dharmic umbrella because they're all dharmic. They have disagreements with core Hindu philosophy on certain issues, maybe, but there's still a dharmic philosophy. They still have a very dharmic foundation. So I think there isn't really a cultural gap. There's just a small conversation gaps. I couldn't have put it better myself. Bulbasaur, I'll finally take your question, man. You've asked this question a few times now. Another MiG-21 crashed just today, Sham. Don't you agree civilians should be kept away from defense decisions? Defense decisions, how do you mean civilians should be kept away? Because I'm not sure I understand that question. Civilians should be kept away from defense decisions. Do you think civilians have a decision in whether MiG-21 should be used? Could you rephrase that question so I can understand it better? Sorry. Okay. What else? Animesh Kumar, we have this concept of Ved Pathshalas, but they're very limited to the south of India. Yeah, I think, they don't have to be limited to South India, and we can do something to change that as well. If there are people, let's say, if there are people in Punjab, if there are people in Uttar Pradesh that want to set up these Ved Pathshalas, if there's somebody here that lives in Uttar Pradesh, if there's somebody here that lives in Delhi, if there's somebody here that lives in Gujarat, they can, if they want to start those Ved Pathshalas, there's nothing really stopping them from starting those Ved Pathshalas. And we can actually use social media so well to do those Ved Pathshalas. And the internet, we can make those, we don't even have to set up a physical location. We can actually use the people in southern India that are in those Ved Pathshalas, and we can use them over Skype to teach other people the Ved. You can create Google Hangouts and create small classrooms through Google Hangouts where a teacher in South India can teach 10 kids in Gujarat. They can teach 10 kids in Delhi. They can teach 10 kids in Uttar Pradesh. You can create things like that where you can teach these things to people via social media, via the internet. And I think we should do that. We should start doing that. If there are people who are interested in learning, create these platforms. That's what I would really suggest, rather than worrying too much that, oh, they're not in North India, what do we do? We can create those platforms now. We have the internet. I was talking about Indian bureaucrats. Yeah, I think too much bureaucracy anywhere is bad, especially in defense, especially in such a vital sector to India's survival. I think it's important to keep bureaucrats out of it. I also think that it's a good thing that the government is now allowing more private enterprise to enter the defense industry. That will help create better quality equipment, that will help create better quality machines, better quality planes, better quality weapons. And we hopefully will not see such sad incidents where a MiG crashes and a army officer loses their lives, or an Air Force officer, for example, loses their lives for no bloody good reason. So yeah, I hope things can change, and I completely agree with you there. Hey Sham, we also have Pathshala concept at this time. Small Pathshalas is running in my house. House Pathshalas are the best concept to spread dharmic knowledge. Yeah, it's such a good idea. And again, like I said, let's use let's use the internet that is available to us. Let's use it to bring about that change. I'd love to do that. Animesh Kumar, yeah, why not? But probably won't get the funding that madrasas get from the government. We don't need funding really. If 10 people, suppose you live in a colony, right? You talk to people in your colony, and let's say if 2 or 3 people want to learn this education or want to create this education, what you can just do is you can just be like, hey man, let's create a website, right? Let's create a website and let's start teaching people, or let's start learning people, or let's bring a teacher on, put him on Google Hangouts, and let's start teaching people in my community. And anybody who wants to learn Sanskrit, anybody who wants to learn Vedas, contribute 50 rupees. And these 50 rupees is going to go towards the teacher's payment and towards the maintenance of the website, and start teaching people. So I think, we don't really need to use government funding. I think we can take the onus on ourselves. Maz Peters, man, thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your donation. I really appreciate it. I'm very blessed to have guys like you who are willing to help the show out. I'm very happy to have you on the show here today. Maz Peters says Mattur village in Karnataka has this culture of imparting knowledge of Vedas and in Sanskrit. Please tell your audience about that. Yeah, so I mean, there you go. There are areas, pockets within India that are already maintaining and helping to preserve our culture, preserve our languages, and preserve our philosophies. And I think we all can do that. One little colony in a city, if they decide, they can do that. Internet makes things that easy now. We can all take our own steps. All we need to do is get out there and try and make it happen. That's all we need to do. Hey Sham, a live Hari Wai. Hello. Hey Sham, a live show with Rajiv Malhotra, sir. Is it possible? Definitely possible. Anything is possible. I mean, I'm a very small channel, and he's a very big celebrity, personality, whatever you might want to call him. So I have reached out to him, and hopefully we can collaborate in the future, and hopefully we can make at least have a live discussion in the future, and if possible, and hopefully work on some collaborations. So that's definitely within the realms of possibility. Yeah. Sir, how about UGC? When is it going to change? Are they ever going to change the syllabus? Again, I'm sure they are. I'm sure that syllabus can be changed. It needs some political will, and it needs some people's will. It needs some will on our own part. Again, what we tend to sometimes do, and I'm at fault for this as well. I'm not saying that I'm above and beyond all these things. I'm at fault for this as well, 100%. What we do sometimes is we will, say it a couple of times that, oh, the syllabus should be changed. And we create a couple of hashtags, but then within like a week it dies. That hashtag, that movement, that pressure that we produce on the government dies. If we produce this pressure on the government for a whole year, for example, the government will not have much of a choice but to change the syllabus, because the government is elected by the people, for the people. So what we need to do is we need to create these pressure groups, and we need to provide pressure on the government for a long term. So if changing the syllabus is something that's important to you, create a group and join more people. Ask people to join. I will be happy to join. I will be happy to have the syllabus changed to reflect a more dharmic view. So create a group and tell me about it. I'll be happy to join. I'll be happy to promote it. And let's create these movements. Let's create this pressure, prolonged, sustained pressure on the government. That's what we really need to do. So if you guys, anybody here listening to this chat right now, if anybody wants to create that group, and I will help promote it. Okay, create that group and I will help publicize it. Let's create this movement. If we want things to happen, we cannot rely on the government. We cannot rely on a hashtag for 1 week. We need to provide and produce sustained, constant, consistent pressure on the government to be able to change these things. No matter what government it is, it can change, but we just need to create that pressure, create that movement, and it needs to be sustained. So if anybody here is interested, create it, and I will publicize it. What else? But come on, if not bureaucracy, do you want politicians to make deals? Look at average education of current Karnataka government. Bureaucracy is at least literal. It's Ashwin Subramania. And that's a good point. And I agree with you. I mean, we can't, like, again, I didn't say that we have to take bureaucracy completely out of it. Some of it is important in the system that we operate today. That's why we have the bureaucrats in the first place. That's why we have the bureaucrats in the first place. But again, it's important that we realize that we can't just let bureaucracy run amok. That is what happens. That is what's been happening with the Sarkar Raj in India for such a long time. What I'm saying is we can't just let bureaucracy run amok. There needs to be a change. There needs to be a check on the bureaucracy, and there needs to be a check on the politicians. I think, helping or having some private oversight, maybe what would be a good idea is to have some sort of a oversight committee. And we already have oversight committees, and that's what I think we have them for. Is to watch over the bureaucracy and the politicians. But again, I also think that the inclusion, and we were again only talking about the defense sector in this case. So in the defense sector, I think the inclusion of more private entities to manufacture weapons and equipment can only be a good thing. And again, everything in moderation. We can't have the bureaucracy run amok. We can't have the politicians run amok. Talk to Farhan Qureshi as well. Yeah, I'm looking to talk to Farhan Qureshi. I'm looking to get him back on my show, and I'm also looking to get Waleed, which is Vidowitz, back on the channel as well, and bring him in for a podcast episode as well. I think that'll be a fun thing to do. Sayan Ghosh Mandal. Hi, Sayan, how are you? It may be controversial, but still let me ask. What is your opinion in trying to convert Muslims into Buddhism, especially when Dalits convert to Buddhism? It can be used as a poison pill. The thing is, like, currently, the way Buddhism is treated and the way Buddhism is used in that political, sort of weird dogmatic sense, I don't know if it's the best idea. And the problem again that I have is that people often tend to create Buddhism as a separate thing from Hinduism, which it is not. I don't think that Buddhism is a separate thing from Hinduism in the first place. So when my biggest problem with this whole Dalit Buddhism movement is that they always try to paint it as Buddhism is completely separate from India and Hinduism for some reason, which it is not. So even if you're converting somebody into Buddhism, you're essentially converting them into Hinduism, because they're still a Hindu, because they believe in deeply Hindu concepts. Like, you look at the concepts of Buddhism, and they're very deeply Hindu concepts. There's only a couple of things. I mean, there's a few things that Buddhism disagrees with when it comes to Hinduism, but other than that, its core concepts are very Hindu concepts. So if you're converting somebody into Buddhism, you're converting them into Hinduism, essentially. So we need to first figure that whole militant sense of Buddhism in India out. Converts of what else? Ahmadis accept Buddha as a prophet. Really? I've never heard that before. That's weird. That's so weird. I've never heard that before. Does anybody know this? That Ahmadis accept Buddha as a prophet? I don't know. I don't know if I've ever heard that concept before. That's a weird one. I might have to do a bit of a Google search on that one, man. I have never heard that before. Animesh Kumar and NJ69er, I like that you guys are already discussing it. Again, guys, if you guys are able to figure something like this out, if you guys are able to figure out either a pressure group that puts pressure on the Indian government to change the to change the curriculum. Like, you look at Anurag Saxena. Anurag Saxena is somebody that I'm going to be having on the show. He has this thing called the Indian Pride Project. And what the Indian Pride Project is, it is a people's movement to bring back stolen heritage from outside of India back to India. And it has no relationship with the government. It is a completely people's project. Excuse me. People on the ground started this as a grassroots movement, and now it is gaining so much ground. Now it is gaining so much credibility. And we can do that with the curriculum thing. If anybody wants to spend some time and effort into creating something that could, help bring about that change, do it. If you guys can figure something out, do it. Let me know. My email address is provided in the description below. So send me an email if you create something tangible, and I'll be much more than happy to promote it. What else? What do you think of Deepak Chopra? In his books, he never mentions Hinduism. I've actually, Harinam, I've never actually read any of Deepak Chopra's books. I'm just being very honest here, but I've watched a few of his interviews, and he talks about these concepts. Again, he talks about these very Hindu-sounding concepts. So I think it's very dishonest if he doesn't really mention Hinduism, if he doesn't discuss Hinduism, if he doesn't say that these are deeply Hindu concepts. I think that's just very dishonest, and somebody needs to call him out on that. Simple as that. Sir, what would you think would be Souvik Chaudhary? Souvik, hi, welcome. Thanks for your question again. Souvik Chaudhary, sir, what would you think would be the strongest solutions for Ram Mandir? Dude, the strongest solution for Ram Mandir would be Muslims agreeing to give up the area of the Ram Mandir for the Ram Mandir to be built. That, I think, is the strongest solution. If you're asking me for the best solution, because I think that's what you're asking. If you ask me for the best solution, that is the best solution. The best solution is the Muslims say, you know what? As a gesture of goodwill, we will give you this land. We will happily move away, and we will give you this land. Build a beautiful, beautiful Ram Mandir on it, and maintain your heritage, maintain your culture, and maintain your pride. And as a result, Muslims will get to build a mosque or a grand masjid somewhere else in the city. I think that will be the best solution. That will be the best solution because that will create an insane amount of goodwill among Hindus and Muslims in the whole country, and that will go a long way towards patching the relationship between Hindus and Muslims in the country. I think that's a great step. I think that's a possible step as well, because I was reading somewhere that the Shia board is already happy for that to be the solution. The Shia board is already happy to say that, okay, Hindus can have that land, we will just build a mosque elsewhere. So the Shias are already in agreement. It's just that we have to convince, a significant section of the Sunnis to be able to do that. Vinod Kumar, hello Sham bhai, Deepak is a fraud. Yeah, I mean, again, I've watched a few of his interviews, and from what I've watched of his interviews, he talks about these concepts, but he doesn't relate them to anything. He just talks about them in this woo-woo terms that, unfortunately, he loses credibility in the public eye. And when you hear about these concepts related to Hinduism, that's why so many people in the West, when they listen to these concepts out of Hinduism, they say, bloody Deepak Chopra, you sound like Deepak Chopra. That's one of the problems that he causes when he makes them sound so like woo-woo and so like hippy dippy and all that stuff. So that's one of the problems. Yeah, Vinod, I agree with you there. What else? Shweta Sharma, welcome. Thank you for your comment. Muslims can't give up that land because of Tawheed. That would be taught. Indian Muslims would be considered Khawarij. Look, man, this is what I think. I think that Indian Muslims need to realize that they're a separate brand. They need to break away from that ummah mentality. Because Indian Muslims, when they go to Arab countries, they're treated like animals. They're treated like trash. Okay? So Arabs just want to convert you, just want to take your money, and they just want to keep you subservient under their thumb. They don't love you. They don't care for you. Okay? So you need to realize that you Indian Muslims are Indians. You have no relationship with the Arabs. So stop trying to connect yourselves with the Arabs and realize that your roots, your connection is with India only, and with Indian culture, and that you have Indic roots, you have Hindu roots, and your roots and your indigenous culture, it is important for you to reconnect with them. your Hindu culture, your Hindu philosophies, your Hindu festivals. It's important for you to reconnect with them. And no, I'm not saying convert, become Hindus. That's not what I'm saying. You can be Muslims, but it's very important for you to reconnect with them and realize that the Arabs are not your friends. They're not your freaking ancestors. That's not what it is. So that's what they need to first realize. And then I think that solution is definitely possible. And then bloody move away from that, ummah tawheed mentality. I think it's possible. I definitely think it's possible, and which is why we need to give reformist Muslims as much of a platform as possible, because they're doing some very dangerous work, good work, but very dangerous work. So I think it's important to provide them a platform. Um, what else? Sham, I can't wait for oil. Bulbasaur says, uh, Sham, I can't wait for oil economy to collapse and the Saudi government going bankrupt. I mean, yeah, and I think people are realizing that as well a little bit, because there's now much more of a discussion about reforming Islam, reforming Islamic societies, reforming Islamic um, sort of philosophies. So there's a lot more talk of that now, and that's one of the reasons why, because people realize that we can't just sit around and wait for oil money to dry up and oil to dry up before these changes happen. They need to happen sooner than that. And I think the world in general is starting to realize that, and that's why we're having more conversations like that. And that's why we're going to continue to have more conversations like that, more discussions like that, more controversies and poking and discussions and stuff like that is going to keep happening. And I'm going to try and do as much as I can. And I think we're in India, we're trying to do much more on that regard as well. So I think changes will come. I don't know when. I hope they will come sooner rather than later. But I think there's movement happening in that regard already. Vinod Kumar, Arabs were okay before Muhammad. True. Master Stroke, you're doing great work. Hey, thanks, Master Stroke, and welcome to the live chat. Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. All right, what else? Devang Sharma, welcome, Devang, and thank you for your comment as well. I appreciate it. Sham, it's all about money, money, money. The new Saudi prince did say that Saudi exported Wahhabism on demand from their Western friends to counter communism. Look, man, already the Saudi, there's other stuff that the Saudi prince said as well. Already the Saudi prince is realizing that this is not how life is going to work for us. We can't just rely on oil and exporting terrorism, because this stuff is going to run out one day, and then we will be caught with our pants down and we will have nothing to go on. So that is why they're trying to expand their economy. That's why they're trying to expand their economic portfolio. That's why they're allowing their women to drive. That's why they're allowing cineplexes to open in Saudi Arabia. That's why they're allowing women to go and watch cinema and people to go and watch films now. So they're taking steps. They're still, of course, going to be exporting Wahhabism because that's their most profitable industry, and because that's where they get so much of influence from in the world. So they're still going to start doing that. But I think the international community is starting to put a little bit more pressure on these Gulf countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, when it comes to exporting these terrorist and terrorism activities. So I think changes are coming. I think changes are slowly happening. Again, they're slow, but they're happening. And I think we need to just make sure that our eyes are on the prize and we keep working towards these issues. Vladimir Antonov. Wow, dude, that's a serious name. I beg to differ with you, Ajit M. This is where the spiritual dimension of India needs to be understood in its pristinity. I agree. I think there's not a lot of knowledge that we have today about the spiritual aspect and the spiritual phenomena of Hinduism. We've been taught for such a long time to disregard that as some hippy dippy nonsense. and this stupid backward religious nonsense that we've ignored. We've been forced to ignore it for such a long time. And now you see people like Michael Pollock, who is a very serious science journalist, and a lot of other scientists and science journalists like David Chalmers, you have Michael Penrose, I think that's what his name is. They're doing some serious work into the theory of consciousness, and the theory that consciousness doesn't come from the brain, and that consciousness exists outside of the brain, and that this whole universe consists of consciousness. And people are saying that it is possible that the dark energy and dark matter that is around 95% of the universe, it is made up of consciousness, or it is possible that a part of it at least is consciousness. So these are these theories that are being explored now. Again, not enough is known about it through science right now, but the theories that are being explored right now, they work really well, or they fit really well within the Hindu philosophy, within what Hindu philosophy often talks about the concept of Brahman, the concept of Prakriti, and how Prakriti interacts with Purush to create the physical world, and so on and so on and so forth, and the concept of Raj Yoga, and that the whole point of doing yoga, and yoga, I don't mean poses. Yoga, when I say, I mean the entire practice of yoga. The whole practice of doing yoga is to attain that oneness with the Brahman and that oneness with the supreme consciousness. So, there's a lot of work being done, and I think whenever it is that scientists figure out something about consciousness, the West is going to try and co-opt it again. So we have to make sure that we Indians understand these concepts and are ready to defend these concepts and stake a claim on these concepts before somebody in the West can appropriate it from us. So that's what I think. So when it comes to Vladimir Antonov's comment, I'm very, very inclined to agree with that. Priyabrata Sinha. Priyabrata, welcome, and thank you for your comment. You're awesome, Sharmaji. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I believe people should be more aware of free thinkers like Mufassal Islam, Taslima Nasreen, Tariq Fateh to counter mindless dogma of Islam. True. We have to also be careful in terms of Taslima Nasreen sometimes, because she has a tendency to misrepresent Hindus and Hindu philosophy as well. But again, that's somebody that I'd love to talk to. I'd love to talk to Taslima Nasreen. I'd love to talk to Mufassal Islam and all of these guys. When it comes to sort of developing more of a understanding of some of the problematic concepts of Islam. Sham, do you plan to visit LA sometime this year as a meetup? I don't really have any plans to come to LA anytime soon. I'm planning to probably go to New York in around August. Sorry, not August. In around October, November, maybe. I'm planning to go to New York. Not LA anytime soon. But if I am in LA, I will definitely hit you up. All right. And if you are ever in the Chicago area or in the Midwest area, just send me an email. My email again is in the description down below. Send me an email, and I'd love to meet up, man. That'd be great. Why communist parties have very high media coverage compared to their representations in Indian society? India D, welcome India D. Thank you for your question. Well, it's very simple, isn't it? The reason communist parties have a very high media coverage compared to their representations in Indian society is because the communists have had a stranglehold on Indian intelligentsia since independence. They've had control of the education system. They've always had control of the media. You look at media of the old days and the traditional media in India. Traditional media in India was always dominated by communists, dominated by leftists. So it's no surprise that the communists and the leftists get a lot of coverage within the media. It is only now that, since the advent of social media and since the since social media became popular in India, that Hindu voices are starting to find their, or dharmic voices, let's put it that, dharmic voices are starting to find their groove and their niche, and they're now starting to create a counter narrative and a counter culture to the leftist media. That's simply why the communists and the leftists get more coverage, because they've always dominated media. Oh, where did we go? Did I fly down? Sham, how about England? What do you mean, how about England? Do you mean World Cup? If you mean the World Cup, then definitely lols. A lot of people in England were making memes about it's coming home. They made so many thousands of memes about it's coming home. I don't even think they played that well, man. If you're talking about the World Cup, I'm assuming. Because even if you're not talking about the World Cup, now I'm talking about the World Cup, so let's talk about England and the World Cup. Because there's so many people, man, that I saw were talking about, oh, England is playing so well, England is doing so well, such a fantastic team, and they've been playing so well, and oh my God, what a great English team. And okay, look, credit to them for reaching the semi-final, but also they beat Panama, bloody Panama, Tunisia, bloody Tunisia, and Colombia, Colombia without James Rodriguez. Okay, so there'd be three teams that were not even close to being the best teams. Then they lost three times. So they won four times and lost three times within this tournament. They lost to the only two good teams that they've played in this whole World Cup. So yeah, I don't think we should give them that much credit that they're receiving in the media. They were not that good. I would have hated it if bloody England won the World Cup, because they did not deserve it at all. Did you read the book Urban Axel? It's a good book. Yes, I just finished reading it. I finished reading it on Monday. Just finished reading it. And so I'm going to make a book review of it. Maybe next week. I'm thinking of writing a book review on, or making a book review video on Urban Axels. So I hope you guys will watch it. So yeah, I enjoyed that book as well. It's a very interesting book. It's a very interesting story of how social media has given dharmic people their voices, because it was impossible nearly to find for dharmic people to get their voices heard in traditional media, because traditional media was dominated by communists and leftists. But now, because of social media, because of the decentralization of the flow of information, dharmic voices have been able to find their groove. And Urban Axels is such a good example of that. That's one of the biggest lessons that I took away from that book. So I'm definitely going to be making a book review on it, so watch out for that. Yeah, it's not coming home. England is trash. I agree. Jared Machet. Wait, I think I mispronounced your name, dude. Jared Machet. I think I got it right that time. Yeah, it's not coming home. Better luck next World Cup. Mysterious Machine. Sham, do you feel that many Indian Hindus tend to get either overtly emotional or engage in self-hate when discussing rational topics? What leads to their lack of calmness and intelligence? Lack in meditation, dude. How many Indians do you think meditate? Match it. That's the one. I got it that time. Mysterious Machine. Sorry, getting back to your question, man. It's just a lack of level-headedness, man. That's what it is. You look at public discourse anywhere, whether it's from the left, whether it's from the right, everybody's shouting and screaming. And I think a large part of it is a lack of meditation. We just don't meditate enough. How many people do you know personally? Anybody here listening to it? How many people do you know that are freaking meditating every day, that make a practice of doing yoga, that make a practice of meditating, that make a practice of calming their minds every single day? Very few. I don't know that many people. I know a lot of people, and 99% of them don't meditate. So of course they're not level-headed. Of course, they have a tendency to get riled up, because if you don't train your mind to be calm, then you will not be calm. It's as simple as that. That's why I've been trying to meditate. I've been trying to meditate, every day for the past like 2 or 3 months, and I'm already noticing a difference. I'm already noticing in the way I talk to people. I'm already noticing in the way I react to situations. It makes a huge difference. That's a big part of it. What else? Mr. Sham, can you speak Hindi? I can speak Hindi, but the reason I speak in English, Kraz India, is because the thing is, when I talk about, and I've been asked this question a lot of times, that, hey, Sham, why don't you do your videos in Hindi? One of the big reasons why I don't do my videos in Hindi and I do my videos in English is because I want to appeal to excuse me, I want to appeal to as broad a dharmic audience as possible. Because I've gotten comments often on my channels where there are people from like South India, there's people from Northeast that don't speak Hindi, that don't understand Hindi, but they're also able to listen to my videos and enjoy the conversations that I have. And there are a lot of people living in the West that have a lot of interest in dharmic issues, that have a lot of interest in meditation, yoga, Hindu issues, anti-Islamism, anti-Christian fundamentalism, that they have an interest in Hindu issues and dharmic issues. And so I want to be able to reach to those people as well. Now, I also understand that doing my shows in Hindi will probably make my channel grow a lot faster than it is growing right now. I understand that. But I've always had this dilemma that, do I want my channel to only grow among Hindi speakers? Or do I want other people who don't speak Hindi, who have a dharmic interest, do I want to reach those people as well? And I do. And so there's a trade-off here. There's a trade-off here in being a Dhruv Rathi and make all my videos in Hindi and appeal to only the Hindi-speaking belt, or make videos in a language that is probably understood by a bigger cross-section of people and grow slower. So that's the dilemma I'm usually faced with when I'm making these videos. So Chetan, there you go. Chetan is one of the ones who's from the South. So I mean, I understand that, not doing the videos in Hindi makes me grow slower than I would otherwise. But, with people like Chetan and, there's people from the West here that are not even Indians and that watch the show and enjoy it. So I want to have that cross-sectional reach out or outreach to people who do not speak Hindi. I don't know what you guys think about that. Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Like, about me trying to reach out to a broader section of dharmic people, or should I only try and reach out to Hindi speakers? Let me know in the comment section below. What I can do though, a happy compromise can be a good happy compromise between making the videos in Hindi and making the videos in English could be that I can find Hindi subtitles. I can find somebody to do Hindi subtitles for me. I think that can work. So if you guys know someone who can make Hindi subtitles for me, if anybody here can make Hindi subtitles for me, if anybody can be here if anybody can help me with making Hindi subtitles, I can put Hindi subtitles on all my videos, and that can allow me to reach a Hindi speaking audience as well. So that could be a good compromise. So I don't know what you guys think of that idea. I think that could be a good idea. If I can get Hindi subtitles on my videos, then Hindi speakers, I can probably grow better among Hindi speakers as well. So let me know what you think of that idea. I can do that. Souvik Chaudhary, I want to take this quote. It's strange that England ruled India for more than 200 years, but many still Indians support England in World Cup again and again. Yeah, man, come on. I don't get that. That's why I like supporting Brazil. Brazil's a good team. I actually like supporting Germany as well. It's just because Germany is a good team. Germany is a good unit. I like good units. I don't like a team that have very talented individuals. I like teams that have talented individuals, but they play together really well as a unit. And Germany does that. That's why I like supporting Germany. I support France sometimes because two of my favorite players in the world are Zinedine Zidane and Thierry Henry. So I support their country because I love them. And I support Brazil because they're fun to watch. Yeah, Colonial hangover, man. Tell me about it. Tell me about that Colonial hangover. Like it's so strange when I see Indians go like, "Oh, go England!" What the hell's wrong with you? Yeah, die Mannschaft. Punamabi subtitles is a good idea. Like many volunteers translated Rajiv Malhotra's books, at least Hindi version of Being Different was by an unpaid volunteer. Yeah, man. Like if somebody can help me out with creating Hindi subtitles, I would be very, very happy with that. If anybody here is happy to support me with creating Hindi subtitles, man, that would really help me out. So if you know anybody, or if you know yourself that you can help me out, just shoot me an email. Again, my email is provided in the description below. Shoot me an email. Let me know if you know anybody that can help me, or if you can help me. That would be a massive help for me. So yeah, I'd appreciate that. Amit Rathi sounds like an England fan. I'm just kidding, man. Amit Rathi, I welcome your comment. Thank you for joining, Amit. Supporting a team may not be a colonial mentality issue. Tamil or Sri Lanka support Indian cricket team. Even Brazil supporters support their previous colonial masters when they're out of any tournament. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Look, I have no problem if you just like England because you like them as a team. Fine. I don't even think they're that great a team. But I know some people that support Manchester United that used to have a lot of British, Manchester United players in the British team, and that's why they support the British team. So I get that. I totally understand that. So, I'm sure there's more of a nuance to it in people supporting British teams from India, but I just like hating on people that support Britain. Sham, I can do a voiceover in Hindi and Punjabi if you want. I mean, that could be an interesting one as well. I don't know if I necessarily would want a voiceover. Let me think about that one for a second. Again, thank you for offering. I really appreciate the offer. Let me think on that for a second. And if you know somebody that can possibly do subtitles first, because I want to try out subtitles first before I try out voiceovers. So if you know somebody that can do subtitles first, I think that would be interesting. But let me think about the voiceover part as well. Again, thank you for the offer. I appreciate it. Let me get back to you on that. At least I can try doing it. My biggest problem is the technology. It's actually pretty easy. The Hindi thing, adding subtitles to YouTube videos is actually pretty easy. If you would want to give it a try, I can even send you like an easy tutorial as to how to do it. You can just try it. If you feel like you can do it, that's fine. If you feel like you can't, that's totally fine as well. I wouldn't mind it at all. Can't type in Hindi. That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Let me give it a try and see if let me give it a think and see what I want to do with the voiceover stuff. At the moment, I think I would like to first try the subtitles and see how that works, what kind of traction that gets. All right, somebody asked me something about. I just came here. What are we talking about football? We were talking about whatever we want to talk about. So, what I had this idea. Okay, what would people think about me doing a World Cup review video? I know that's not what my channel is about, but I'd love to do a World Cup review video. World Cup 2018 in review. I'd like to do it. I really enjoyed this World Cup. I thought it was a really fun World Cup to watch. So I don't know what people would think about that idea. Let me know what you think. Okay. Okay. Satyajit Indramohan. Satyajit, thank you for your question. Thank you for participating. How often do you come across non-leftist Indians in the US? There's a lot, man. There's actually quite a few. The problem that I run into is with some of those second, third generation, well, mostly second generation, sometimes third generation, city born and bred Indians that went from the city as well, that went from the cities in India as well. So those tend to be slightly leftist, living in the big cities, they tend to be slightly leftist. But I met a lot of Indians. I actually went to a Vivek Agnihotri book launch in Chicago here. He launched his book here. So I went and met him, and there was a lot of Indians there, and all of those Indians were very concerned about, our dharmic struggle and our struggle in America, our struggle for survival, and our struggle in popular and philosophical and scientific discourse. So I've met quite a few, to answer your question. Hey, are you deliberately ignoring me, Rohal Pandey? No, I'm not deliberately ignoring you. I just haven't had a chance to take all the questions. I'm talking about the Rothschilds. Rohan, I honestly have no idea about the Rothschild and their theories. I haven't really read anything about it. So I would not know anything about that whole claim that the Rothschilds run the world. Wouldn't have much of a clue. Sorry, man. One Mega Videos channel. When are you making videos on Op India again? Next week. I'm making a video next week for them. So watch out for that on the Op India YouTube channel. What's your Master Stroke? Hey, Master Stroke, thanks for your video. Thanks for your comment. Sorry. What's your take on Sacred Games? I haven't seen it yet, man. I want to see it. I've been hearing a lot of chat about Sacred Games on Twitter. Awesome, mode. A lot of people have been talking about Sacred Games on Twitter. I haven't had the chance to watch it yet, so I'm looking forward to watching it. I just haven't had the time to just sit down and watch TV for a while. So, with the work stuff and with the show, it's been really busy. So hopefully this weekend's going to be really busy as well. Hopefully next weekend, the weekend after that, I'll get some free time and I'll sit down and watch Sacred Games. Okay. DB Patel, any Khalistani you've met? It's a good question. Not yet. But I actually met a couple of Khalistanis when I was in New Zealand. I was in New Zealand and I met a couple of Khalistanis there. I was just talking to somebody. It was a Sikh guy, and I was talking to him, and he started talking about how the Indian government is committing atrocities on Sikhs, and the Indian government is trying to kill all Sikhs, and the Indian government is being horrible to all Sikhs, and so on and so forth. And I was like, dude, have you been to India recently? Sikhs and Hindus live pretty much in harmony, in pretty great harmony. Most Hindus who live in North India, particularly in Delhi, where I lived in Delhi for a while. Most Hindus who live in Delhi have at least one Sikh friend, at least, and they know a lot of Sikh people, and they get along just fine. They get along just like they would get along with any other Hindu or a Muslim or any other person. So yeah, I met one in New Zealand, and it was a strange thing talking to him because he would just not take on board anything that I was saying to him. And I was like, dude, I'm so happy that Indian Sikhs are not stupid like you, because Indian Sikhs, by and large, I'm sure there's some stupid people, but by and large, I think Indian Sikhs are very well integrated, and they're very patriotic, very hardworking, and very culturally within the Dharmic ecosystem. Ananyal, I'll go to Canada, you'll find many there. Exactly. I've heard Canada and Britain also, to a large extent, is a hotbed, is a freaking filthy little hotbed for Khalistanis. Vasu Srivastava has a good question. Why do we live in the past rather than moving forward with the new age? Well, I think an aspect of that is that we've been taught for the past 200 years, we've been taught, Vasu, that our culture is useless, our history is useless, our philosophies are useless, our teachers are useless, our heroes are useless. We've been taught that for such a long time that ever since we broke away from that mold, from that mindset, once you started realizing that our history is great, that our culture and our heroes and our philosophy, all those things are great. As soon as we realized it, we we sort of, because the pendulum again shifted in such a big direction where we were told that everything is useless, that when we broke away from it, we a little bit took the pendulum in the other extreme. We were like, no, everything is great, and that everything in our past was just fantastic. We had Wi-Fi, we had flying chariots and all of that stuff. So I feel like that's what happened there. So we over celebrated, I think, a little bit our history. And I think our history and our culture and our literature and our science must be celebrated, needs to be celebrated, needs to be understood by everyone. And what we now need to do, once we've celebrated it, now what we need to do is we need to use it and look forward. Use it and move forward. Utilize our knowledge and apply it to the future. That's what we need to do. So I think that's been our trajectory. Pendulum shifted too much on one side. Now, recently, we shifted it a little bit too much to the other side. Indian Army has Sikh regiment known for its valor. Exactly. I think by and large, Sikhs in India are pretty well integrated. That's been my experience of it. I haven't met any Sikh. When I lived in Delhi, I interacted with a lot of Sikhs. There's a lot of Sikhs in my area where I lived. And so I interacted with a lot of Sikhs. There was a lot of Sikhs in my school. So talking to them, you will never get the sense that they're very patriotic people. You will never get the sense that they have any Khalistani nonsense in their brains. Anuj Barua, have you met any flat earthers in the US? No, not yet. Not yet, man. But I'm sure I will. There's a few of them here. There's quite a few here. So maybe I will. Maybe I will one day, but not yet. Poonam Abbi, those Khalistanis you talk about are the ones who were escaping prosecution for the terrorism crimes in the 70s and the 80s. They're losers supported by Pakistan. Exactly. I mean, there's a pretty strong contingent of Khalistanis, overseas and even in India that are supported by Pakistani money and Saudi money, because they know that these are things that weaken India. And anything to weaken India, they're happy to give money for. So there's that. In India, we have Islamic studies, Buddhist studies, but why not Hindu studies? Pulak Gayan, welcome. Thank you for your question. Simple answer, because we're too secular. We've always been too secular. And we need to move away from that secularism and again, take these initiatives upon ourselves as people. Everything that we do now for Hindu causes needs to be a grassroots movement. We can't just talk about it a little bit and then forget about it or rely on the government too much. It needs to be grassroots. We need to create pressure groups. We need to create pressure groups. Find an agenda that you are passionate about, create a pressure group around it, tell me about it, and I will publicize it for you. I've already told you this before. I've already told you guys, I mean, all of you guys before, that if you are passionate about a cause, create a good movement around it, create either a website or a Facebook page or something, create something around it, and let me know, shoot me an email, and I will publicize it for you. All right. What Hindu movements do you see in the US that hold up the future of Dharma in the West? There are, man. Like ISKCON is a big one. ISKCON is a big one. Then the Vivekananda, I think the Vedanta Society is another big one that is becoming quite popular. Then the Art of Living is actually making some big inroads into the West. With their meditation classes, with their yoga classes, they're making some big inroads into the West. You won't believe it, but Baba Ramdev is also starting to attract attention in the West now. So I think there are some strong areas for dharma here in the West as well. And what Indians need to do is go and support them. What Indians need to do is uh, again learn about our culture better, so we can go support these causes, and we can help spread the knowledge of dharma in the West. Okay, so I think I've been able to, take quite a lot of questions. My bloody throat is ah that's good coffee. But yeah, I think I've been able to, take a lot of questions. Let me take a couple more. Tell you what, let me take a couple more. Sham, one mega videos channel asks, Sham, what do you think on dividing Jammu and Kashmir in three different states, Jammu separate, Ladakh separate, and Kashmir separate, so that Ladakh and Jammu will be developed? Um, I think that's a good idea. I actually put that question to Ashish Dhar on our conversation as well. He's a Kashmiri Hindu. And so he said it's a good idea for the time being. It would help with the pushing. Right now there's a problem of Hindus being pushed out of Jammu as well. And Ladakhi is being pushed out of Ladakh. So I think that would be a good idea. That would allow the Hindus of Jammu and the people of Ladakh to be able to maintain their cultures and to be able to maintain their populations and maintain their traditions, while at the same time not facing danger from the radicals in Kashmir. And then eventually Kashmir is, if it's trifurcated, then you'll see that Jammu is developing really well, Ladakh is developing really well, but Kashmir is just stuck. So hopefully that will allow Kashmir to realize, and the Kashmiri people to realize, that this jihad is not going to get you anything. All right, this jihad is only going to get you poverty, and that's it, nothing else. So I think that's a good idea for the trifurcating. I think that's a good idea that can really work. I agree. What else? Top trending videos. Hi, namaskar to you as well. Are Jammu Hindus asking for a separate state? Amit Sagar, welcome and thank you for your question. Yes, they are. There's some prominent leaders, community leaders from Jammu that are now talking about a separate state, that are saying that, to alleviate the pressure that we have on us and to stop us from getting pushed out of Jammu, we need to get a separate state that will allow us to develop our own state, maintain our own culture. And I think the Ladakhis would be happy with that demand as well. So yeah, there you go. Is Vedic culture finally extinct? No, I don't think it's extinct at all. And I don't think it has to be extinct at all. And there are our culture today is a derivative of Vedic culture. So if our culture is a derivative of Vedic culture, that obviously means that Vedic culture is not dead. So again, this is like a question of, what exactly do you mean by Vedic culture? Like the way we used to live in Vedic times, or the philosophies that we had? Because when you're talking about the philosophies and the practices that we have, they're pretty similar. I mean, in a lot of ways, they're quite similar to uh, Vedic culture. For example, the Chhat Puja in Bihar, it's a very Vedic ceremony that happens there. It's very close to it's very close to a Vedic ceremony. So I don't think Vedic culture is dead. I think we can always rediscover, and we can always reincorporate some of those philosophies into our present and our future. So I don't think it's dead. It's just a matter of us being able to figure out our unity on certain core issues, and then work our way from there. Lata Sharma, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ignore you. I just may have missed your question. Was Nehru actually from a Pandit family, or did he just change his name? I don't know. As far as I'm aware, he was actually from a Pandit family. His dad, Motilal Nehru, was from a Pandit family himself. So I think he was a Pandit, but he never associated himself as such. So who knows? Talking about Vedic culture, where do I get undoctored texts from and learn pure Sanskrit with no BS? Sorry for shouting. I wanted to get noticed. That's totally fine. Pure Sanskrit text. Go to what's that public? There's a publication house that has all of these texts. I think they're available in Sanskrit as well. I just can't remember the name of the publication right now. It's a there's a Gorakhpur Press, right? Is that what it's called? The name is right there, but it's just not coming to me. It's called Gorakh. It's based in Gorakhpur. It's called the Gorakh Press or something. Man, the name's right here, but it's just not coming. Let me Google search it. Gita Press Gorakhpur. Yeah, that's the one. Look up the Gita Press Gorakhpur. Yeah, thank you. Master Stroke, thank you. Pulak Gayan, Satish, Babani, thank you. Gita Press. Yeah, that's the one. I think Gita Press is a good one where you can find all of these texts and all of these texts available in Sanskrit as well. That's a good question. That's a good place to read some what you would call it, undoctored Sanskrit text. That's a good place to start. I got the Sanskrit version of the Gita from the Gorakhpur Press, and I really enjoyed it. Dear Sham, please invite Vivek Agnihotri. I have met him, and I've told him about coming on the show. So hopefully one day I'll be able to get him on the show one day as well. So hopefully that can happen in the future. All right, guys, I'll tell you what, I've been able to take quite a few of your questions. I have to actually run along and get some work done for future episodes and for work in general. But thank you very much for sending your questions today. Thank you very much for participating in the live chat. This was really fun. I want to do it again in the future sometime. So maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll do another one of these so I can take your questions, so I can talk to you guys. So you can, because I think I have such a great community of people on my YouTube and on my Facebook. And I really like enjoying, talking to you guys, and I really like taking your questions and interacting with you guys. So thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for participating today. It was really fun. Again, guys, I will be, so quick announcement that on Friday, I'll be releasing a video where I'll be talking about Rajiv Malhotra ji's Swadeshi Muslims initiatives and what I think of that initiatives and how successful I think that initiative can be, and if there are any changes that I would make to that initiative. So that's the next video that's going to be coming out on Friday. So make sure to keep an eye out for that video. Again, thank you very much for participating. Thank you to the people who contributed and donated. I really, really appreciate your support for the show. If you guys are new to the show, if you guys are watching for the first time, you can subscribe to the show's channel down below. And wait for the Friday video. I will see you again for the next episode. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.